Hello viewers, and welcome to this class on recording patient case history. You are learning oral medicine with Dr. Vasanthi, and this series is hosted by Dr. Pratibha. Thank you, Dr. Pratibha, for having me. We are going to cover recording patient case history today. It's a very important part of any clinical encounter, whether you're a student or once you start practicing. This forms the basis for good clinical practice. So what is it all about, and why is it so important? Let's begin. For those of you who missed my introduction, here it is. I'm Dr. Vasanthi. I'm a specialist in oral medicine and radiology. I have been working as a faculty for over 13 years. I'm also a learning and development specialist. I'm an academic success coach for dental students and also a certified business and transformation coach for dental professionals and academics. So let us begin with our lecture or series or class, whatever you'd like to call it, on history taking. So by the end of this presentation, the learner should be able to appreciate the importance of recording a good case history, recall the steps in recording history, and practice good case history technique for clinical encounters. An important thing that one needs to know is recording case history and examining a patient and performing diagnostics is a higher order learning skill, and for this we need to have a good knowledge base which is going to lay the foundation for our clinical skills. So by knowledge base, I mean a knowledge of all pathologies, of all your basic sciences, the fundamentals that you've studied in medicine, as well as that's been taught by medical subject experts, as well as the basics of dental sciences. So you need to be cognizant of all these things when you start clinical work in your third year or your fourth year. It depends. I think it varies country to country. There are some minor differences in the arrangement of the subjects and syllabus. So here what is involved is cognitive, affective, and the psychomotor. In simple words, it is knowledge, your attitude and skills that matter here, and it's a vital part of clinical practice. I cannot emphasize that enough, but this is what is going to make all the difference in the patient's experience. Why do we record a case history? Is because we want to establish a professional relationship with the patient. We want information on the patient's history, why the patient is visiting you, and what is it that he expects and what is it that you can do. You also need to have this patient interview, the history, to establish a diagnosis, and this will be followed by a treatment plan. And this cannot happen if you are not able to record a case history properly. So if you ask the right questions, you may get the right answer, but as a clinician you need to ask more questions so that you will get the whole story. Case history is defined as a planned professional conversation that enables the patient to communicate his or her symptoms, feelings and fears to the clinician so as to obtain an insight into the nature of the patient's illness and his or her attitude towards them. So when you're recording, when you're talking to the patient, it is not only the patient's complaints that you are recording, it is going to give you a much bigger picture about the patient themselves. One thing or many things that you need to remember regarding case history is that this is something that is going to make or break your relationship with the patient, and you need to ensure that you are practicing good infection control procedures, and you need to follow universal precautions everywhere. These days patients are alert and aware, so you need to make sure you're not making any mistakes on your side. See, there's something that we all love and detest at the same time, and that is Google, and all information that anybody wants is available at fingertips. So we can assume that most of the patients who walk into the clinic will have conducted some kind of a search as to what their problem is. They may not be entirely correct, they may be wrong, but then it makes it even more challenging for a clinician to be able to explain in a way the patient understands, and also to record a history so that you are able to get all the information that you are seeking. Now, errors are preventable. What I mean by errors are preventable is a lot of times errors happen when there is some mistake during the case history taking. Either you have not asked all the questions, or you have missed out something important, and sometimes patients may not be forthcoming with information. So in that case, it is the clinician's duty or responsibility to make sure you have found, you have asked all the questions that you need to ask, so that you will not have any errors or problems later on. Because if anything is missed out, then it could be a problem with diagnosis, it could be a problem with treatment plan. So that's what I mean by errors are preventable. So make sure you have not missed out anything when you are recording patient's case history. And while you are a student, practice and ask for feedback from your teachers, and have discussions with them. Remember that this is the time when you are going to learn. So third year, final year, when you are in your clinics, no matter what department you are in, take a good case history and take feedback from your faculty members about the things you are doing right as well as the things you are not doing correctly. So this is the time when you will get feedback. Once you're out in the open, you won't get feedback. It's like you're left to your own devices. So we don't want to have any kind of unpleasant experiences when we start off with clinical practice. So you get all kinds of patients walking into your clinic, and we need to ensure that no matter who the patient is, we are able to put in our best effort in making sure their experience is a positive one. So that's what I mean by make or break, and we need to remember this. Now, what is the structure of case history? First of all, we record demographic details, which includes the patient's name, age, sex, and so on. We'll take a look at it in detail. Then there's chief complaint, the history of presenting illness, medical history, dental history, personal history, social and nutritional history. Once you're done recording all these things, then you can proceed with examination, diagnosis, investigations, treatment plan, and follow-up. What does demographic details mean? It means all the personal details of the patient that we require for record keeping. So you record the patient's name because you need to know their identity. You need to put it down in the records. And when you are aware of the patient's name, it is kind of an ice-breaking session also, where you're finding out who your patient is and where they're from, how old they are, and where they live, what is their occupation. So age is important because it gives us guidelines for what kind of treatment to provide, and before that there may be certain diseases that you can expect in certain age groups. Similarly, you record the sex, address, and occupation. Now some colleges may ask you to determine the socio-economic status as well, but then I think that if you have recorded the occupation, then that will give you a clue about the socio-economic status as well. So these are the things we record. Now remember, there are certain oral diseases also which are related to the age groups, which you will find in certain age groups. Then there are dental problems which you may find in either males or females specifically. Then you need the address for correspondence. The address also gives you an idea as to where they are situated geographically, and also that might also give you a hint about their socio-economic status, but then don't rely too heavily on that. You can just bear in mind. Now coming to the interview. The interview is the part where you ask questions. So the most important thing here is recording the patient's chief complaint or the presenting complaint. This has to be recorded in the patient's own words. Why we record it in the patient's own words is, let us say your patient walks in and says, I have pain with my lower left molar. And if you record it as, I have a patient reports pain in 3/6, then someday the patient may say, I don't know what is 3/6, I don't know why you wrote 36 there, or whatever tooth numbering system you're following. So we need to record it in the patient's own words and their own descriptions Do not replace the words they have used with anything else as much as possible. Now once you have recorded the chief complaint, if there are multiple, then you record them in the order of occurrence or order of priority for the patient, or the order of onset, whichever is a longer standing duration or acute, depending on the patient's priority is. Then we move on to the history of presenting complaint, where you ask more details, you probe further into the patient's complaint. Onset is whether it is sudden or gradual. Now if it is pain, then it is sudden or gradual. If it is a growth or a swelling, you can use the term insidious. Now insidious denotes that it grew very gradually without patient being aware of its presence. So that is not applicable to pain, the word insidious. If you have pain, you will know it. Whereas if there is a sinister looking lesion, then it may have started without the patient's notice. Then next is the duration, how long it has been present. What is the location of that complaint? Where is it situated in the jaws? Soft tissue, hard tissue, ask the patient to specifically talk about it. Then if it is pain that you are recording, pain is the most common complaint patients walk in with into a dental clinic. So what is the type of pain? Acute pains are unbearable, whereas chronic pains tend to become more bearable over a period of time. Then there are the kind of pain, the way the patient describes the pain will also give you an idea of what the pathology might be. Neuropathic pains are described as burning pain. Then neuralgic pains are also there, which are a different kind of pain altogether. They come in shock-like transient attacks of pain. Then temporal nature refers to the time, whether it is intermittent or continuous. Then ask the patient whether the pain is localized to one area or whether it radiates or is referred somewhere else. Then progression means whether it has become severe, whether it had a milder onset in the beginning or it has become severe, or the other way around. Then aggravating factors, relieving factors, and associated symptoms. So if it is continuous, then generally patient may not be able to pinpoint what is the exact aggravating or relieving factors. However, intermittent pains are usually associated with an aggravating and relieving factor or not. Things are different with the patients depending on what their complaint is. Then associated symptoms. If the patient's complaint is a dental pain, the usual associated symptoms are swelling, fever, and limitation in jaw movements, depending on where the swelling is situated. So these are the, you have to ask about associated symptoms because it is going to be contributory to your diagnosis. Okay. If it is, let us say the patient is suffering from symptoms, is describing symptoms of periapical abscess, it is important that you ask whether he or she had a similar swelling or similar pain in the past and how long it has been present. So chronic abscess can have exacerbations, so then we call it phoenix abscess, or an acute exacerbation of a chronic periapical abscess. So that's why it's important that you ask all the questions necessary so that it will help you arrive at a diagnosis. It's very important these days to record medical history. Okay, so medical history and review of symptoms is review of systemic conditions is very important because chronic illnesses are increasingly common these days. You need to record current medical problems in the past. Now patients may have been hospitalized in the past for a complaint and may have recovered completely. Why you need to record past medical history is it gives you an idea of what the patient is suffering from and since when, and how to use this information to give a good dental treatment and experience to the patient. Then you have to also record allergies, any history of allergies, any medications they have taken in the past or they are still taking. So in this regard, steroid history is very important, history of steroids, because if a patient has been taking long-term steroids, then they may have adrenal suppression, the HP axis suppression. And family medical history also is important. You ask all the relevant questions here. These days you find that diabetes, hypertension and so many other diseases run in the family. So if there's a family history, then you can expect that the patient who's come to you may already be suffering from those diseases or may develop it later. So this is about family medical history. Now, history of malignancies also run in the family. It's usually a genetic mutation which may be continuing down the generations. Then next is the sexual history, whether okay, I think there was a brief pause there. I had some connectivity issues. So sexual history is recorded, especially if you find any signs of sexually transmitted diseases. So that's when you take a sexual history in greater detail. If you see signs of AIDS, if you see signs of any other sexually transmitted disease, then you can probe further into this aspect of their medical history. The next step in the patient interview is recording the dental history. Why is it important? We need to make sure that we have recorded current symptoms, then what was done in the previous visits, especially if the patient has come to you for the first time but has undergone treatments in the past. This is important because there are some patients who go doctor shopping. So they're not happy with you, they go to another doctor or dentist and they keep hopping to different clinics. So this is called doctor shopping. You need to know what is the frequency of dental visits, why are they visiting, what was their experience in previous dental treatments, how did they find the previous dentist, and why are they coming to you, why are they not continuing with the previous dentist. So these things have to be understood. Then maxillofacial trauma history is also recorded here in dental history. Then what is their home care routine for maintaining oral hygiene? This can also be recorded in dental history. And oral habits such as adverse oral habits, bruxism, nail biting and things like that, they come under oral habits. Home care routine is brushing, mouth rinsing, flossing. All these details can be recorded here. How many times, what is the type of toothpaste, the type of toothbrush they are using, and this will give you a clue as to how careful they are or how alert they are regarding their own oral hygiene. So that they are able to, so that gives you a clue about how motivated they are about taking care of themselves. Then next is TMJ history. You ask this here because TMJ problems are becoming fairly common, such as clicking, so internal derangements. These kind of things will present with pain or limitation in movement or painful opening of the mouth. These kind of things can also be asked here in TMJ history. Then exposure to fluoride. Depending on where you are situated, your patient may or may not know about exposure to fluoride. So some of the really educated patients will be able to tell you that I use a fluoridated toothpaste or a non-fluoridated one. And there are certain countries where water fluoridation is a practice, is a norm, while in other areas it is not. More often than not, you will find that patients are usually unaware of their exposure to fluoride. But this will be able to, you will be able to elicit if you examine the patient's oral cavity, if there is signs of fluorosis, or if there is patients with higher rate of caries. Then next is dental history. You also come to know whether a patient has dental phobia, fear of dentists. So when I have worked in a clinic, I have found there are few patients who are really scared of a dentist. And that is why I would like to reiterate that case history is that phase in your clinical encounter where it can make a patient's experience a positive one or a negative one. So it all comes down to case history, how you demonstrate empathy and listen to your patient, give the patient a patient hearing. So give him or her some time to listen to what is ailing them, and make eye contact with them, show confidence in while you're asking questions. These things are all subtle signs to show whether to the patient whether you're confident or not. That way it's very important. So that's why practice during your clinical rotations. Case history is very important. So ask the right questions, ask a lot of questions, and then understand what the patient's complaint is. Another important aspect of the patient interview is social history. So here you ask about relationship status, whether they are married or going to get married or divorced or widowed. This is important aspect of relationship status. If you find that patients are widowed or divorced, they may be in depression. So this would help you in identifying or also prepare you to anticipate something unusual in such clinical encounters. And how many children they have, what is their occupation. You can go in more detail about their occupation. Their cultural and religious beliefs are important because that will determine whether their decisions regarding certain treatment procedures. So cultural and religious beliefs are important. Now if you come to India, you'll find that patients will not come on certain days of the month, especially the new moon days. They believe that it's quite inauspicious to undergo any treatment. So similarly, you'll find that there are certain cultural and religious beliefs across the world. So you need to be sensitive to it depending on where you're practicing, be well informed, or understand it through your support staff, what kind of things to expect. Then tobacco use is important for you to record. We all know tobacco causes a lot of oral problems and general problems also. So tobacco usage is common across the world in different forms. It's used in many different forms. So take a detailed history of what kind of tobacco they're using, how many times a day, for how many years have they been using it, and do they chew it for a long time and hold it in the oral cavity, or do they spit it immediately. So these kind of things are all useful. Next is alcohol usage, then recreational and illicit drug use. Why recreational drug use is important is, I'll give you one example where cocaine. So cocaine users, okay, people who snort cocaine through their nose. In such people, you will find that there is ischemic changes in the nasal cavity and also the palate. So they may develop ischemic necrosis in the palatal region and also within the nasal cavity, and this might cause destruction of the palate. So this is just one example. So you need to take history of recreational illicit drug use. And the pain threshold is also different here in alcoholics as well as recreational drug users. So pain threshold is altered, and they may not be very cooperative patients, or they may come to you in a state where they do not comprehend what you are saying. So take a history of all these additional tobacco, alcohol and drugs. Then also take a history of the recent travel. These days, in current times, it's become very important now because COVID has become a pandemic because of travel. So when a patient comes to you, at least where I'm working, when they come to us, we take a travel history, and also their lifestyle. Now lifestyle is very important because of an upsurge in lifestyle related diseases. So whether a patient is spending more hours in a day being sedentary, or is their profession or their activity involve a lot of moving around. These things are, this is important to know because it will give you a clue as to how they are placed throughout the day. Lifestyle is an important aspect because their metabolism is determined by their physical activity also. So record lifestyle, how many hours are they seated in a day, and do they move around, or is it a very stressful job? So certain jobs are associated with greater amount of stress. So these patients might present with some kind of anxiety or aphthous ulcerations or any psychosomatic oral problems. So while you are asking questions, you get a lot of information other than what you're just asking them. It gives you a lot of clue as to what to expect. It's not just the straightforward answers to the questions, but much more than that. Their facial expressions, their body language also give away a lot of information to an astute observer, to an astute clinician. These things also contribute to diagnosis and decision making regarding their treatment plan. Now lastly, we are coming to the nutritional history. So here the diet, and why diet is important is because it is an indicator for how careful they are about what they eat. It's an indicator for whether the diet is carcinogenic or not, and also gives away their. So coming to oral health, These days we have seen an increase in the availability of refined carbohydrates, then sticky foods, candies, aerated drinks, and consumption of all these kind of unhealthy foods has also increased across different socioeconomic strata, and these are contributory to poor oral hygiene and also an increased incidence of caries. So diet will tell you about whether they're consuming a cariogenic diet or not, and also whether they are careful about their oral health or not. Then diet also gives you a clue about their general health. So people who are consuming a lot of refined foods or processed foods have a greater chance of developing some nutritional or metabolic or a lifestyle related chronic illness later on in life, whereas those who are more careful about their food they are consuming are less likely to develop such illnesses. So these are all the different parts of recording a case history. And one thing I would like to tell you all is, during your clinical encounter, while you're talking to your patient, there's something that you all can start practicing. I heard this from a very senior doctor where I work, where he told us, make it a habit of asking an uncharted question. Now, what is an uncharted question? Something that does not appear in your case history pro forma, something that is not in your interview pro forma or format. So ask an uncharted question. If it is an elderly person, ask them, or any person, how was your day? If it's an elderly person, you can also ask, how are you doing? Where do your kids live? How has your day been? Who's there with you? Who's come with you? And these kind of questions will help you. They're icebreaker questions, and they put the patient at ease. Then if it's a younger patient who is going to school or college, you can ask them, how was your day at school, or what are you doing in college currently? Where do you think you're headed after your school? And these kind of things can be asked, but keep it formal, but also make sure that your body language and your facial expression display genuine interest in what is happening with the patient. I wouldn't recommend getting too friendly or getting too much involved in their personal lives, but when you ask such uncharted questions, it helps the patient relax. It does not have to happen at every clinical visit. It's just during the first few minutes of your patient case history, patient interview, that you can ask just one uncharted question and make this a habit. This will be useful because, like I said earlier, it's an icebreaker, and it will put the patient at ease, and they will gradually start opening up with more answers that to the questions you haven't even asked. And this is one of the ways where you can make the experience more positive. It will contribute to a more positive experience. And this is the conclusion of history taking. In the next video we will talk about patient examination, and that will be followed by diagnosis. So thank you all for watching, and if you'd like to connect with me, these are my details. You can write to me on my email, and also have a look at my website and leave your feedback. So that will be all for now. Thank you all for watching, and you guys take care of yourselves. Bye bye.